everybody. Welcome to ToRAISE Questions, the Doula podcast. I'm Sarah Allen Short, and I'm here with Thérèse Hakoon. Hi, Thérèse.
Hi, Sarah. How are you today?
I'm good. We are going to do an episode today about doula burnout, but first we want to let you guys know about a few workshops we have coming up. To Labor is a national doula training and certifying organization and the host and sponsor of this podcast. And so that means that if you've already been a doula for a while and you want to take a refresher course, or if you're new and you want to do a training, To Labor is the place. You can listen to our podcast and figure out if we're the place for you, but we're the place for you.
Yeah.
So we have workshops coming up all over the country. You can go to www.tolabor.com to see the schedule of those. If you don't see, Trace, what you want to say a few that are coming up? Not the whole list, but just...
No. This summer, we have Richmond. We have Richmond, Virginia. We have Corpus Christi in Texas. We have Boston.
Okay. And the rest of them are all listed on our website.
Yep.
You want to say any more? You were pausing.
Yeah. Michigan, and then into September and October and November, there are so many that it would be too many to list right now. But it's really... spend some time looking and thinking about traveling if there's not one in your community. And if you don't see one, our schedule for 2015 is pretty complete at this moment, but we're working on our 2016 schedule right now. And if you are interested in perhaps bringing a workshop to the community where you live, you could contact our workshop coordinator, Nicole, at tolaborworkshops@gmail.com. She's great, and she'll give you information what that entails and see if we can make something happen.
Yep. And we've been lax on our tip of the day for the last couple of weeks, and we've been hearing that people like it, so we're going to add it back in this week. And my tip for this week is nothing to do with doula burnout, which is what we're going to talk about next, but related to a story I heard from a fellow doula recently. My tip for the week is make sure you put in your contract what happens if you don't make the birth because they didn't call you, or because it went too fast, or because you're sick. And those can all be different answers.
You're right.
But I was talking to a doula friend of mine that they decided that, she had held a space for them on her calendar. She had met with them prenatally, and they didn't call her when they went into labor. And then they said they didn't want to pay her, and that's not okay. Right. So everybody handles it a slightly different way. But just make sure that in your contract, you have that covered, and you talk about that in your prenatal, what your preference is.
And so I will add to that tip. Make sure you have a contract.
Yes, make sure you have a contract. Yep.
Thanks, Sarah. So I wanted to talk to Sarah for a little bit, and to all of you. Sarah has made a decision. God, I feel like I'm going to cry. That she needs to step back from doing the podcast for now, and probably forever, but for now, I'm sure she'll come and do some guests with us, I'm hoping anyway. And so I wanted to first thank you, Sarah, for...
It's been so much fun.
Oh, it has been.
It's been wonderful.
Yeah, it's been so great.
I'm feeling such mixed feelings today about giving this up.
Yeah, and I am too.
Yeah.
I feel like I knew this was going to be hard, but I didn't realize in talking about it how emotional I feel.
Yeah.
So I know everybody else is going to feel the same way, because they've thoroughly enjoyed you and all your input and all your wisdom and all your funny remarks.
Thank you.
And guiding me to shut my mouth when you guys don't know it, but Sarah will wave at me often during my talking. And so I'm going to miss you. I know everybody else is.
I am too.
And on that, though, I'm not going to be here alone, because I don't want to do this alone. So I would like to introduce to you all today the new co-host with me, which is Melanie Headley.
Hi, everybody.
And Melanie is a very experienced doula, but I would like you to take a moment and let people know who you are, a little bit, about you, so that they can get an intro from you specifically, and then I know they'll just get to know you as they got to know Sarah and I.
Thank you so much, ToRAISE. And I have to say, what an honor and what a just huge position to fill. I love Sarah so much. I've worked with her in the community and beyond for many years, and thank you so much for having me. I am a doula. I am a mom of 4. I teach childbirth education classes. I have my own business with that. I'm also a lactation counselor. And you might recognize my voice. I did a little podcast called The Tribecast for a while. And I'm just really happy to be here. I love these women so much, and I'm very passionate about birth and doula work. So thanks.
So Melanie and I were actually doula partners for a couple of years, I think, backups. And those of you who listen to the podcast have heard my story of the one birth I ever missed, when I had a client who was, I think, 38 weeks and one that was 42 weeks that went into labor on the same day. And I had been with one client. They had both taken Melanie's childbirth class. And I had been with one client for, 22 hours or something when the second one went in. And I was really trying to hang with the second one. And I finally called Melanie at 3 a.m. and said, they need fresh, that you got to come in. And I was so devastated to do it. It was my biggest fear, was missing a birth. And Melanie swooped in and was awesome and was fresh at 3 a.m. And that's the only she was the one who was at that birth.
That's
so, so I'm thrilled that Melanie is going to be taking over. I really trust her.
And we totally tag teamed it for a little while. We were right next door to each other in the hospital, and we would cross paths and give high fives and go back in the rooms, and it was great.
Yeah, and actually, I think the funnest is that a word? The funnest, the most fun time in my doula life was when Melanie and I were partnering closely, and by partnering, for those of you. Everybody does it a different way. The way we did it was we each had our own clients, but she always knew sort of who was on deck for me, and I knew who was on deck for her. And that one time that she covered for me was the only time we needed the backup.
Right.
But she takes a lot more clients than I do, so she felt like she needed backup. Can I say that? Okay. She needed backup in case she missed a birth, which she never has. And I felt like I needed.
Well, no, I have.
You have?
I have missed a couple births, but I have another backup that I work with, and the only 3 I've ever missed was one I had the flu. They did not want me there, although I was like, well, maybe no, stay home. And then the other 2, I was out of town, but I had worked with these families, and they had met my backup, so we were kind of working as partners with the family, so they knew that there was a good chance if they went within that time frame, they would get the backup,
like you and Sarah had.
Right. So, and I just really loved the year or 2 that we haven't been backups for a while, but the year or 2 that we worked together, and we just would talk once a week or every now and then, and she would call me and go, oh my gosh, I just was at the most amazing birth, or oh my gosh, you won't believe what just happened, and vice versa. And it was, we have a very active doula community, and we have social media, and we have lots of places to talk about births and to process, but there's nothing like having one person that you trust not to tell anybody else, not to judge you good or bad. It's just, there's no replacement for having one person.
Yeah, I stress that all the time, that I prefer people to do that one-on-one. But I just want to say that, for me, sitting here at this table with the 2 of you is such an amazing thing, because I knew both of you before you ever became doulas. I knew you as pregnant women, and to see the growth and the evolution that has occurred in both of you is just amazing. And I feel honored to have walked through all these years with both of you. So it feels like a privilege to have had you, Sarah, really be part of my transformation, as well as me be part of your transformation. And then with Melanie, the same thing. I mean, and here we are. We're at a new juncture in this relationship that we've had for all these years, and it's exciting.
It is. I feel like it's a big love fest. It's great.
Is.
And I was going to say, I think ToRAISE has seen both of our vaginas.
I was going to just say that
but
too.
We haven't seen each other's vaginas.
And you haven't
We've got to get on that, Sarah.
And we haven't seen ToRAISE's vagina.
Yep, that's the way it goes. So, we're going to continue to talk. And Sarah is staying, of course, here today to do this podcast with us, and Melanie will be here as well. But actually, today I'm kind of taking charge and introducing our guest and our topic today, which is really about doula burnout and what you do with that, whether you step away or whether you re-inspire yourself, and what is the choice and how do you come to that choice, and so forth. And so who I'm speaking to about this with is Sarah Allen Short, because of a decision she's made to step away not only from this but from birth work. So talk to me about it, Sarah.
Well, and it was actually in reverse. I decided to step away from birth work first, and then started to feel like this podcast needed and deserved someone who was more, I've stepped away from doula work for a little while, like maybe I guess I did my last birth 5 or 6 months ago.
Right.
And so that was the first decision, was stepping away from doula work and continuing to do this, and then eventually feeling like this podcast would be better served by someone who's actively, I may be back someday to doula work, but it's going to be a while. And I felt like this podcast deserved someone who was, actively doing this work.
So what has brought you to the decision to be away from birth work? We understand how that relates to stepping away from this, but
that's easier for me to talk about.
Yeah.
So we actually talked before we came on air. I was really debating whether or not I even wanted to talk about this, because I feel like, for one thing, it's very personal. For another thing, I know that a lot of doulas are listening, and I don't want to let them down, that I'm I think every doula ever has had a moment when they want to step away.
Well,
and the question is whether that moment lasts or whether it passes.
Well, and that's why, as much as you were hesitant, we decided, and I feel really strongly, these are the stories that need to be told. Just like when somebody has a plan for a birth to be this idyllic situation, and it doesn't in the end, that's not what they get.
Right.
They should still tell their story, because everyone wants the idyllic birth, and we need to know what transpired, and that story needs to be told. So you sharing is really important, because you're right. I think most doulas reach a point, and
I just feel like you should have someone on the podcast who reached that point and got re-energized, rather than someone who reached that point and is taking a step back.
Well, that's me.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
That's you other times, and that's Melanie, and we can talk about that, and we will talk about that as well.
Have you had that moment, Melanie?
I've had that moment multiple times, especially at hour 24 of the birth, and you're looking at who knows how much longer. Like, is this my last birth?
Yeah.
Should I continue with this? This is really hard work. And and like Sarah said, I do take a lot of clients, and having those few days or weeks or a month or so, if I give myself that, and going on vacation, focusing on those breaks, as women do, like in pushing, focusing on those breaks, and using that time to regain energy.
But so
I've been involved in birth and postpartum work in various ways, basically since my first baby was born, for 10 years. And I feel like by the time I actually became a doula, I already knew a ton. I was already a birth advocate.
Because, and I'll remind people, because I think we talked about this at one time, a long time ago, that when you took the To Labor workshop, your intention in coming was you were really involved in postpartum support and postpartum international support, like with depression, and really following up with that. And you came to the workshop to have a even better understanding of what leads up to childbirth.
The way that I tell it is that you tricked me into becoming a doula. That's the way I tell the story.
So let me finish how the story really happened. So you said at the beginning of the workshop, I'm not here to become a doula. I'm here to learn about pregnancy, labor, and birth from an outside, other than my own personal experience. So it will enrich how I work with people in the postpartum period. And then in the conclusion on Sunday, in the goodbye, you told all of us that now you thought you were going to be a birth doula, and so you were.
Well, and it actually took a few more months after that, and then my sister-in-law invited me to attend her home. It was a home birth, and it was the most. I was high for like 3 weeks. I mean, it was the most amazing thing I had ever seen. And I had a home birth at that point, and I had a birth center birth at that point, and it was just the. I mean.
You caught the fire.
I caught it. I mean, who knows if it would have been the same if my first birth had been a different birth. I don't know, but it was just amazing. And so, then I started. And what I don't know if we've talked about is I have had a full-time job this whole time. I have a whole other life. My husband was a stay-at-home dad. And so it was pretty easy for me when I started. And there's I know a few people who are in this situation.
Yeah, more than we know.
Yeah, I think the most, there's a bunch of different models for how to be a doula with kids, full-time, part-time. But my husband was a stay-at-home dad, and I had a job that was very flexible, especially initially. And it was easy for me, especially since births happen so often in the middle of the night.
Right.
I would often attend a birth in the middle of the night and go to work the next day, or...
and you were working primarily
I was
out
working
of your
from home. That's right. I was working for a company in another state, and I was working from home.
Right.
And so...
With some travel, though, that you
some
had
travel
to negotiate.
that I negotiated around. So I actually learned from Melanie. For a long time, I didn't take clients when I was going to be... If I was going to be gone any time in the 4 weeks around their due time, I wouldn't take them.
Which then becomes impossible.
Which becomes difficult if you're traveling very often. And what I learned from talking to Melanie, what Melanie often does is she'll say, I'm going to be gone. You're due June 10th. I'm going to be gone June 5th to June 10th. It's up to you. And more often than not, people hire you anyway, and it works out. Melanie's had a lot of clients, and she's missed 2 births for being out of town, and both of those people knew there was a chance that it wasn't like a last minute trip. They signed up with her knowing. Anyway, so I started doing more of that. I would have 3 days at my office in Michigan, and would tell people I'm going to be gone these 3 days, and I never missed a birth, and so I was able to do actually a fair number of births. Over the years, and then I think, my relationship with you and my starting to work for 2 Labor, intensified my education and passion. And so then anyway, about 18 months ago, I got laid off and from my day job. And I guess 15 months ago, I seriously considered and explored doing birth work full time. At that point, my husband was still not working. And we started to do them.
He wasn't working for pay.
He wasn't working for pay, right? Working outside the home, right? Exactly. And that was a choice. He is a stay-at-home dad by choice. And we started to explore whether we could support our family. But as all of that was happening, I was also starting to feel this burnout for the first time.
What was the feeling that you were having? Because we use that word burnout, but what does that mean?
For me,
what were your symptoms?
Here was the symptom. For years, when I would get an email from someone going, I'm pregnant and I'm due in July and I'm wondering if I can interview you, I would get excited. And all of a sudden I started to not get excited when I got that email and go, another client that I don't know. Another client that I'm going to have to talk to about what horrible doctor they're using. And this is doula to doula. I should be being more politically correct than this, but
no,
we all know those clients call you and they go, I want a natural birth and I'm with so-and-so doctor at so-and-so hospital. And that doctor has 95% epidural, and it's just there was this, it wasn't that gradual. It was maybe semi-gradual from where I would get that email and go, yes, I get to talk to somebody new and whatever they decide is going to be fine for them and it's all good. And it just started to shift to, here we go again. So there was that starting to happen. At the same time, and I don't know if this caused that, and I'm just going to be really honest about this.
I want you to be, because this is important. And I'm giving Sarah the permission to be really honest. So I want all the listeners to really appreciate that, because it can be raw and it can be explicit, and you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah. And so I think the other thing that was happening for me that was honestly it was a big factor for me, was drama in the birth community. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody has their things that are easy for them and hard for them. And Melanie was just talking about when she doubts being a doula is at hour 24 in a birth. For me, that's not the hardest time. When it's certainly I have had those moments where I'm at a birth and I'm like, I can't do this. But for me, the hardest time is when there's backfighting and gossip, and there was one specific situation where there was a midwife and I that had a disagreement about something that happened, mm-hmm. and out of the zillions of births, that's why I don't want to talk about it, because I feel embarrassed that I let it get to me. I mean, out of zillions of births that go well and zillions of relationships with midwives that go well, I just turn over. It's a personal thing of mine. So but I'm just being honest about it.
Here though,
and doulas in the community that I feel like are not representing us well, and just all of the drama and gossip in the birth community started to get to me. Mm-hmm. That is the truth of one small part of why I started to get burned out. And I want to talk about the other reasons too, because
I do too, but I just want to look at this for a minute. One is, you should not feel embarrassed at all that specific incident bothered you. What it says to me is that you were really sensitive to and really were examining what was your role in the situation. And having discussed, and I'm not going into this over the podcast, but having discussed with you one-on-one what the situation was, I can speak to it very honestly, that you were legitimately hurt by the experience. And
by the midwife.
Yes, by the experience mm-hmm. overall, yes, and how it played out. And you felt your reputation was questioned at that time. And you knew the truth of the situation. So I think this is something, the reason it's important that it is brought up is because doulas do find themselves in those circumstances. And when they do, the first thing that you have to do is examine, what was my role in it? Was I culpable here, or am I really not to quote unquote blame for anything? And if you find that you are responsible, then really making it be clear to yourself how you can make changes so that doesn't occur again.
Well, and I want to be clear, this was not a tragedy. This was not. I mean, it was one of those things.
Yeah,
the client probably
miscommunication is what we'll just put it down
to. And I think that. And I also should be clear that I continued to attend births this was a year and a half
more than that
ago, at least. I continued to attend births
with that care provider as well.
I'm not sure. I attended others with her practice, but I'm not sure I ran into her. I just the luck of I was worried. I don't think I did. I was worried about it. Mm-hmm. I attended many, many, many with her colleagues, but not with her. But it just kind of stuck with me. It stuck with me that it was easy to, I don't know, that stuck with me. And then in the meantime, knowing that there are a number of doulas. So I think part of it was that one situation, which I think I don't know. I say I shouldn't have allowed it to get to me, but it got to me. It got to me. I was worried about my reputation. I don't think my reputation was actually damaged.
No.
I mean, I still had plenty of clients and I still worked well with midwives, but there was just this one midwife. So then there was also my family life. So as my children, when I started being a doula, my children were really young. And I hear a lot of doulas talk about how it's so hard to leave young children. And I get that. With a stay-at-home dad and young children, for me, it was easier. And it started to get harder and harder as they got older. And
older, what do you mean by ages? Because I think it's relevant to people.
Like elementary school.
Okay,
for me, it was about when they started having scheduled things that I would miss.
I was just talking to a mom about this yesterday who has a little one, a year-old and, and I said, this is hard but it's going to get harder.
Right. So leaving a nursing baby is super hard.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving a 2-year-old, you actually sometimes miss them. Sometimes you don't. But if you are gone for 24 hours, or if you have to leave on Tuesday night at 7:00 or whatever, for me, it wasn't as big of a deal when they were little. And then all of a sudden my daughter has a performance, and I'm aware. The first time I ever had to tell her, I might miss your performance. She was in this improv comedy thing, and she'd been taking classes, and it was a summer camp, I think, the first time. And I had this client that I thought was going to go and hadn't gone yet. And I had to tell her, I might miss your thing for this client. And I had to ask myself, should I let my client down and say, I can't come to your birth because my daughter has a performance? Should I let my daughter down? After talking about it with my daughter, I decided that in this particular case, it wasn't a huge deal to her. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that I judged that correctly. Anyway, I didn't miss it. Yeah. And I haven't missed anything. I've been very lucky. But I just started to worry about it. I started to worry about
you out.
Missing soccer games and missing things. I mean, when people grow up, this is the stuff they talk about. Their parents were there for them or weren't there for them.
Right.
They went to my soccer games or they didn't go to my soccer games. You know, it's pretty basic. And so the older they get, the more I started to worry about that. So all that's going on.
So your kids now, though, just let me, are
10 and 7.
10 and 7. Okay.
So then all that's going on. So then on top of everything else, I now am out of a job.
Right.
And have to figure that out. And figured out pretty quickly that I wasn't going to be able to make enough money short term doing just birth work.
Right.
I'm not a licensed CBE. I know very few people.
Certified CBE.
Certified, right.
Right.
I know a few people who support their families just doing doula work, childbirth ed, lactation, a series of things. But there aren't many that can totally...
Who are these people? I would love to know them.
You are one of them. Yes, Melanie has a million hats. She's a lactation... I think she said this already. Yeah. She teaches classes. She takes a zillion doula clients.
But she's shaking her head saying...
Yeah, no. I mean,
she's dressed in Prada right now and has diamonds dripping off of her. So we all know this is not a particularly lucrative work necessarily. Although, I mean, there are doulas in bigger cities that I know make more money, but then their rent's higher too.
Exactly.
So, anyway, I figured out that since doula work and postpartum work is really my only, I don't have these other pieces to add to it, that maybe I could build a business over time, but it would take years and I didn't really have that time. So in the meantime, I started a business of my own, which is marketing and public relations consulting.
Which Sarah is really good. And what's the name of your company?
Thrive Communications, www.thrivecom.com.
Good.
And that was when it really just started to get impossible, because when I was working for a company and working with other people and had a team, I felt like I could miss a meeting or be, if I was at a birth and had to miss a meeting, or if I had to get my work done at 1 a.m, it was fine. But once I was a one-woman shop running my own business, I started to feel like I just couldn't juggle it anymore. So the combination of, the practical reality is the reason that I stopped doing doula work was because of my family, my business, my time. The emotional reality was all this drama stuff that made it very easy to step away from. I think that in the height of me loving doula work, where like every birth I was excited and I cried at every single baby that was born for like the first 30 babies, it would have been hard to walk away from it if I just had scheduling conflicts, and I probably would still be doing 1 a month or 6 a year or something like that, just to sort of, and actually I have gone through phases in my career where I've done that, where I've stepped way back. I've gone through times when I'm taking 3 or 4 a month. I've gone through times when I'm taking 1 a month or a couple and
space
in a
them
quarter.
Out.
Yeah. Although I always found it was easier to take 2 or 3 in a month and then not take any for a few months than to take 1 a month, because then you're just on call all the time. So that's like the big picture of all of the factors. And I just started to become more and more, it took a long time for me to really, I found myself starting to tell clients would contact me through Doula Match, or through referrals. I mean, I get a fair number of clients and a fair number of referrals. Right. And I was starting to say, no, I don't want to take somebody 8 months out. I don't want to take somebody 7 months out. I don't want to take somebody 6 months out. And so I started only being willing to take people like 4, 5, 6 weeks out and not wanting to plan.
Because it just felt too much of a looming prospect out there. It like last minute maybe was like, okay.
Like I can still do this, but I couldn't.
I don't have to spend my energy for months and months just thinking, whether it's physical, but just knowing they're on the radar.
Right. And I just started to get less and less, I think probably everybody has felt that with some job or another, where you like it for a while and then you stop liking it. Mm-hmm. And I run a mothering circle here in town. I mean, I do a lot of stuff with pregnant and birthing women aside from my paid doula work.
Right.
And I still really was enjoying those casual conversations and finding that I loved going to the prenatals and talking. I would dread the prenatals, and then I would go to the prenatal and really have a great time. That I went through a long time like that.
Yeah.
Where I would think, I don't want to take this client. I don't want to go to this birth. I just want to hang out with my kids tonight. But then I would go and it would be great. I will say during this period, there were a few births in a row that were tough, which didn't help. But I've had that before, and you sort of bounce back from that. But I think just in the context of everything else, it started to feel like, and what was interesting is my husband has always been totally supportive of me, working full time, being a doula, being a mother, being a wife. He's always been supportive. And when I started to talk about feeling like I was, starting to want to pull back and spend more time with my kids and family, he was like, yeah, that sounds great. I mean, he had been supportive. He had been supportive, but I sort of felt like once I started to...
He was feeling like, okay, this would be good for all of us.
Right. Yeah. And I think that actually that's because I did it at the right time. Right. I think if I had said that 2 years earlier, maybe he would have said, no, you love this. You should keep doing this.
Well, he had been part of your life in all those years and watching. Can I ask you how sleep affected you or lack of as well?
Sleep is tough for me. Yeah. I think... lack of sleep is very tough for me. It takes me a long time to recover from it. And I think that played a big role in my postpartum depression was the sleeplessness. And when I would go, 36 hours at a birth, I would come home and I can't sleep. I'm too wired. I have to take a melatonin to go to sleep after I've been up for a long time. Cause so that I wouldn't say that was a major, I didn't do so many births. I think that was a part of me thinking I can't actually do 5 or 6 births a month.
Okay.
But I don't think, and it was part of why my husband supported my decision to step back. He said, you have to remember that not only are you away from us for 24 hours randomly, then when you get back,
you sleep
and it takes you a couple of days to recover, fully and to be fully engaged again.
Right.
And
so he saw it, how it was impacting in a longer term.
Right. I would say, I'm missing my kids' play. And he said, and you're missing the next day and the next day because then you got to catch up on work and then you got to catch up on sleep and everything else. And like I said, I actually never missed anything of my kids, but it started to wear on me that I might.
Right.
So
was it like all of a sudden, Sarah, what I want to get, what it reminds me of the conversation, which is not everybody's conversation either, situation. It's like when people are trying to decide to have another baby or not, and, feeling like, really, I'm done, but I really would like to have another baby, but no, I'm really done. And then, some people are crystal clear and others are that wavering back and forth.
Well, it's funny analogy. That's the way I was with having another baby. For years, I was like, do I, don't I? And then once I knew I didn't, I knew.
So is it that?
And it is like that.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
It is like that. And that's my process. I think everybody probably has a different process. But I may.
Where do you see this? Do you see this? Can you see yourself doing birth work again? Do you see that as leaving the door open? The reason I ask is because some people will say, no, they are done. Like they've done it. They loved it, but they don't envision themselves going back.
No, I don't feel like that. I feel like it's going to be a while. I feel like it might be forever. I might never be a formal birth doula again. I have a friend who's pregnant now who wants me to attend her birth, and I am so thrilled at the idea of being with somebody that I know and love. I'm absolutely excited about doing that. And I could see myself attending births
for friends
and family and things like that. I could see myself doing things here and there in the future. The idea of being fully in the community and in all the politics of which hospital's doing what and which doula is saying this and saying that, and
and the practitioners
and the practitioners
clients.
and the doulas and the infighting about rates and experience and all that kind of stuff like exhausts me. Now maybe when I'm 50 and I'm above it all, I can come back in and just, revisit it. I don't know. But then what's funny is, so we recorded an episode that, about activism.
Right.
And I already knew that I was quitting, and I had told you that I was quitting.
Right.
And I sat there and I teared up. And I thought, I can't quit. I can't quit. This is too important. And that same day, I heard a story of a friend of mine who had had a baby who knew from day one she would be induced. She wanted to be induced, and she had pictures on Facebook and holding her baby with, joy, absolute joy and thrill and excitement, and also lots of tubes coming out of her and coming out of the baby. And I thought, I felt so grateful that I had the opportunity to have a different kind of birth, and that I've helped so many people have a different kind of birth. And there's nothing. I mean, you guys know, those of you listening, if you had a birth like that, I'm not trying to discount or undermine what you had. I'm talking about for me and for the work that I've done. And I thought, I've got to keep doing this. This is too important. And when we were talking about activism and the way babies are brought into this world and the way that women's voices are being silenced, I thought, how can I step out of this now? It's like one of the most important things. And I sat here with you and actually teared up and thought, I can't quit. And then as soon as I got home and away from you, you're like the siren song of birth work. I was like, no, this is my family. This is the other part of changing the world is raising good children.
Well,
and I need to do that. And not that you can't do both, but I can't do both right now.
But I always said this, and I say this at every workshop. I know that people who come to the trainings, really their intention is to be, almost everyone is to become a doula. And I hope that they will. But what my message is at the end there is, you will always do birth work, because once you know, you can't not know. It doesn't mean you have to attend births to be an activist in this field. It's, you have the knowledge, you have the compassion, you have the respect, that, and you want the integrity to be intact for everyone. So it can be in birth. You will share that with pregnant people. And it will be, though, in your raising your children, which is so, and I've said this so many times.
My sons who are going to grow up, and if they marry women, they're going to be like, what? You want to do what?
But, they'll understand what it means to be safe. And that's what we're really trying to help people create, is that safe space. And, if you are coming into birth and you are feeling like you're excited and you're invested, but you're not in the same way that you used to, it's something to pause about. It really is. I mean,
it's just like when I was at that birth and I was tired and I really wanted to be there for that mama. And I thought, they deserve somebody who's fresh. She was 6 centimeters and she was kind of stuck at 6. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to take forever. And Melanie came in and she was fresh, and she actually had the baby 4 hours later. And I'm sure it wasn't just because of Melanie, but I mean, there was a new energy came into the room, and that's, my clients deserve better than what I can give them right now, honestly. And this podcast deserves better than what I can give it right now, because I'm not totally in it right now.
Yeah. Okay.
So can we talk about something else now?
Yeah,
please?
but wait a minute. I want to finish up by first, again, thanking you for sharing this, because I think it is really an important topic that, having been training doulas for almost 20 years now, and having been around this for so long, beyond that, I do so understand and appreciate the aspect of the flux that you can go through. The feeling of I'm just done. And what I think, the reason we decided to share this is because
I really wanted to just come in and say, peace out, y'all.
Well,
later.
You can say that at the end.
Or take this job and shove it.
Yeah, that was not what you meant, though, right? You didn't really mean that.
No, I didn't mean that.
It's important because people do feel this way. And what I want people to do is who are in doula work is to really pay attention. How are you feeling? Are you still impassioned? Or are you doing this because it is a job? And it is a job, and we want it to be a job, but you have to have passion behind that job. And if you are feeling really strained by this, stressed by this, you're finding yourself angry at situations over and over again, then you really need to pause and think, is this one good for me? And very importantly, is this good for my clients? And the money aspect is something also to really view. I mean, I don't want to tell people about their finances, me above anybody, can't talk about that. But, if your motivation is for money, you got to think about, is this not the right place to be? I mean, don't take a birth because you need the money. Take a birth because you really want to be part of that person's birth experience, because of just what you said, Sarah. You need that freshness, you need that love there for the experience. And, for those who are waffling right now, it doesn't mean you have to stop. It's what can you do to reinvigorate yourself, re-inspire yourself. And there are many things, and we can talk about this even at another time. But one thing I will say is that, and this isn't just a plug for our workshops, but I really mean this. I see this all the time. People will come and take the workshop after having done the doula work for a while, and it may be for 1 year or 5 years, and they come and they take the training because they just think, okay, maybe I can learn something new or immerse myself. And every single person at the end of that training will say, I'm so glad I came because I feel re-inspired to go back out there. I got what I needed. I'm not done. I want to do this work, and I'm so glad I'm here to do that. So that's one aspect. Think about taking a workshop again, or for the
I've
first time.
I've definitely jumped in again on your workshops just to do a day here,
right,
or a half a day there when you've been in Richmond, and it's definitely reinvigorated my own practice for sure.
Yeah. And so just real quickly to finish up with this, any quick tips from either one of you about how to, feel this, allow yourself to feel this way, but if you really still feel like you want to keep doing birth work, what do you do to re-inspire yourself?
Well, I did just want to talk about and I guess this speaks to what the question you're asking, but the politics of it all. There are, being in a business with 100% women, other women can be really hard sometimes. And all of the social media that is out there now with Facebook pages and Instagrams and Twitter feeds. And
which I love so much.
All of that. It's wonderful, but it's also easy to miss the correct tone and to misconstrue what the intention was behind what was posted. And I have had to step back sometimes from some of those social media sites and just say, okay, I'm going to sit on my hands. I'm going to turn my phone off. I'm not going to respond to this, and I'm just going to breathe, and I'm just going to remember why I'm in this business.
That was actually, I didn't mention this, and I should have. During this time, also because of my work with To Labor, I was getting involved in a lot of national doula Facebook groups that were stressing me out.
Right.
People were
so
unkind.
It wasn't just your local community.
Right, no, right.
Yeah.
I didn't clarify that.
Right.
There was some,
we should
in fact, it was,
that.
it was much more on the national scene than in the local scene of doulas being awful to one another and opinionated and fighting about everything. I mean, it just was, and I needed to monitor what was happening.
Nasty.
Yeah. So that's a good point, Melanie.
Yeah, and it's hard to remember why you're there when you see all of that. And so I think if that is something that is affecting your practice, then take a break.
Yeah, get off of all that stuff.
Take a break. It's not about that. It's about your connection to women and their families.
And I'll give people permission to take a break only because, for the obvious, because it will quiet you for a while. But the truth is, and we talked about this in other podcasts, we had a whole one about competitiveness, so go listen to that. And also about, we did one about trusting yourself. You already know what to do. So trust that, the whole thing is we're trying to help our clients trust themselves. Trust yourself that you know how to be at a birth. You know how to do this. And you don't need everybody's advice 100% of the time.
But I wasn't going to those sites to get advice.
No,
I was going to those sites
I know you weren't.
to make sure that the doulas who were out there going, I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing.
Weren't, this is the hard part. But we're not the police also. And it's hard. It's hard for me because as head of an organization, I have to keep an eye on things. And I do let things slide by because I get anxious watching what's going on. And I feel like I'm powerless after a while. And I'm not powerless. And that's what I think those things can often make you feel.
And sometimes your silence is your power.
Exactly.
That's by not weighing in.
Yeah.
And that's where it really helps, like what Sarah was talking about when we used to back each other up, having that one person to call.
Absolutely.
And, and ask for advice or ask for an ear. That really helps. And then it's not out there.
That's it.
Yeah. So I think, the other thing I think is think about what's hard for you and whether you can address that. And if there's something specific that's hard for you, like working with a certain practice or driving to prenatals that are 50 miles away, there might be things you can change about your practice to address that. But I think I also would suggest, because I have had dips before and gotten reinvigorated. Right. It's just this time that's not happening. But I think that the other thing you can do is take a little mental break. This is tough to do with having clients scheduled out, but if you go to one of those births Melanie talked about and it's 24 hours and you're like, I just can't do this again, go home, take a deep breath, call a backup. If your next birth is in the next day, use your backup. It's not going to be the end of the world. That woman, that birthing person deserves a doula who wants to be there. Let your backup do it. If you need to skip one birth, it's okay. But for your mental health, do it. And then see if you get reinvigorated. A lot of times for those kind of things, it's just a really great birth is all it takes to get reinvigorated.
That's it.
And what was happening to me was I would have a great birth and still feel like about the next one.
Well, there were a lot of variables that you shared with us.
Right, there were. But I think for those of you who are listening and thinking, oh yeah, I'm feeling burned out too, a lot of times it just takes a really great birth.
Yeah, and
to get you back in.
It takes talking to somebody one-on-one, and other times it takes the honesty to say, well, I think I'll take a break for a month or 2 months. I need some time off from this, and I'll come back. I'll schedule clients for September instead of for the summer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I had the fortune to run into one of the midwives here in town yesterday and had this just impromptu hour-and-a-half talk about birth and sharing our own birth stories, and that was enough to put a little spring in my step, for the rest of the day. This is why I do this work. So just little things that just pop up during the day too can help.
Well, again, Sarah, I'm going to cry again. We're not done.
I'm going to cry too.
We're not done. But thank you so much for sharing what you have gone through to get to this place. And thank you.
Thank you. It's very emotional it feels like a relief and also such a sadness, but mostly relief right now, which is why I know it's the right thing. And I'm excited to keep listening and excited to keep watching this organization do its important work. You have been transformative in my life. This organization has been transformative in my life, and this work has been. And I am absolutely so glad I did it for as many years as I did. And, I grew up in Richmond. I left. I came back. We have a joke that Richmond sucks you back in. I have a feeling doula work might be the same way, but we'll see.
That's it. Okay.
So thank you all for supporting me and us. And Melanie's going to be awesome. She's just as sarcastic as I am, but she talks a little slower, so she's easier to understand.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks, everybody.